Medina.
How come you forget?
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Replay Podcast. Today's guest she was actually my first boss in the lending space and a good friend and just all around awesome person, Carolina Medina.
Well, legally, but illegally is Carolina Davila.
She goes by Carolina Davila.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's just because the branding is done that way.
Yeah.
But
People know
legally-
you as that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were my first boss, and when you first, and I want people to know this, when you first hired me, what were your thoughts on like, okay, I'm hiring a brand new loan officer. Granted, he came as a referral from a good realtor partner. What were you thinking about when you hired me?
Well, I thought that you were very friendly and you were willing to learn.
Yes.
Because I remember at that company where we worked together, our comp wasn't the best.
No.
And I was even taking some from the top because you were going to do some training.
Yes.
So you were willing. Like,
Yes.
let's go. Let's do it. I'm just going to come over here and let's start generating some volume.
Yes.
And you were a team player from the get-go. So I think that was what was most important. And I think then you were at your full comp shortly after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, that was right before COVID. Like
that
year?
was right when Danny was born. So about 6 years ago, approximately.
That's crazy.
Maybe even 7. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And so like, okay, you're my boss. Let's shift a little bit. How did you get into the mortgage space?
Oh, it was purely accidental.
Okay.
So my first language is Spanish. And I was in this group called Le Tip. Like every single local here in Vegas knows it. So you go and meet every single week. This one was on Fridays every morning, and everybody goes and represents one industry. So I was representing the IT business, IT and internet.
Yeah.
And there was a loan officer in that group. So because I had breakfast with the same group of like 25 people every single Friday at Red Rock Country Club.
Okay.
He's like, I have a Spanish-speaking client. Can you come and translate for me? And I'm like, sure. So I went to the appointment thinking I could get a new IT contract for the company where I work. And I translated the appointment. I helped them pull, the pay stubs, everything that we usually do for our Spanish-speaking clients. And it was a family of 5. And I was talking to them where I grew up, where they went. And it was just easy, like how
just
we
like
talk.
bonding, natural. Yeah. I love it.
And then the loan officer is like, you have to come work for me. And he's like, I'll match your salary and then you'll get commission. And all you have to do is just take the classes and pass your test. And then I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't feel, because I never worked commission before.
Yeah.
I've always been a straight salary.
Yeah.
And I had just had Valentina. So this was almost 10 years ago.
Oh, man.
And then I'm like, I don't think I can do it. Like, what is it going to require? And he's like, well, take the classes. So I remember I went on Memorial Day weekend, maybe one of those long holidays. And I took the classes I think it was a 4-day class.
Yeah.
And then I took the test like 2 days later and I passed it. And then I'm like, okay, well, here's my credentials. Because they are like, the test is really difficult. But I think I was so motivated to just get it done.
Yeah, just to get it, yeah.
And I was studying while breastfeeding the little one. It was madness. So it must have been a mom's superpower.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
And so then they made me the offer. And then I started his loan officer's assistant.
Okay.
Well, he was very disconnected from the loans because he had 2 other loan officers assistants and me for the Spanish-speaking clients, and then he would just disappear. So I went to the branch manager and I sat with her, and she knew everything about guidelines. So I sat down with her every time I was in the office, learned as much as I could how to read the HUD guidelines, how to calculate variable income. Every single thing that could break in a loan broke.
Yeah.
And it was about fixing it.
Yes.
So after 6 months of doing that, then I'm like, okay, I can do this on my own. And I left his team, stayed with the company, and kind of just started originating from them.
Jeez. Okay, so let's talk about, you're doing sales and you're probably successful in sales, right? In IT sales. So how was that conversation were you married at the time?
Yeah.
How was that conversation with your husband at the time? Like, hey, I'm going to leave this salaried position, technically going to another salaried position, but now you are in a completely different field. How was that conversation?
Well, it was fortunate that he already has a really good job. He's a web developer. He can do mobile applications. So he's like, even if it's just me working while you get this new career figured out, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And we had just bought our first house and, mortgage was super low. So we're like, okay, let's go ahead and try it. And because I was already a salesperson, he's like, oh, if you can make commissions. So then he supported me on that as far as that he just took over everything. And then I was able to. And then I did negotiate to get advances and salaries and things like that. I think I learned that from my dad because he's being a salesperson. So he's like, you never just take the first offer. You just like negotiate.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes, I know. 100%. I was like, no, no, I want this. I was like, okay, fine. We'll make it happen. Yes.
Yeah. So thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So in order to go in, I knew I had a safety net for 6 months where I had a guarantee.
Yeah.
And I just had to meet certain goals.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what
so
we did.
what was the first company that you were at? What's the name of it?
The very first one was Axia.
Axia. Okay.
Axia Home Loans. Yeah.
Okay. And is that loan officer still in business, or do you still? Okay, he is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't talk to him very much because we never connected because he wasn't never in the office. But the branch manager, she's amazing.
Awesome.
I always anytime I talk to her or I see her, I'm like,
she's still at Axia?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she's the branch manager, and I'm like, I know what I know because of you, because you sat down with me.
So she was the real reason why you learned what you learned, because she took the time and she invested in you. So you were there for how long?
I want to say I was there for maybe a year and a half, and that's how I brought Rose into the industry. Got her to move from California.
And how did you know Rose?
Rose
was a coworker of ours, another loan officer,
which was on
partner.
our team too as well.
Yes.
I know her from Jaime, from my husband. So we know each other from California. I used to babysit her daughter because immigrant, you come to the country.
I need a babysitting job. That's the quickest money.
Babysitting, housekeeping, a waitress. I was terrible at waitressing, anything. So I know her for like 17 years probably.
Oh,
and
geez.
so I know she was looking for a different career or just to add on to her career because she was a personal trainer back then.
Oh, okay.
So using the sales techniques, I got her to move to Vegas and join me.
That's a big leap that she took. Okay. So then did she get licensed before she moved?
No. I got her to come in and same thing, offer her a salary. That way she can, get used to everything. Yep. She really liked it. She does really, really well.
Yeah, she does. And was this at Axia as well, or
at Axia?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she started to take her test, and then she got licensed after. Man. She felt comfortable,
Yeah, she's awesome. So in our industry, and I want to preface this, in our industry, not that it's common, but it's normal for loan officers to move to different companies. So when you hear us talk about, oh yeah, I was here at this time and here at this, it's pretty normal. There are loan officers like your branch manager that you know at Axia, who spends her whole career there, which that's also normal, but it's also normal to move. And I say this because I've moved probably like 4 or 5 times, but essentially within the same companies almost. So
yeah. I think if I were to count it, I've been at Axia, then I went to OnQ Financial, then Castle and Cook, then OnQ Financial again, then Movement Mortgage, plus 5, then Community Access Lending, and now LoanDepot 7 times. 7,
okay.
Wow.
But it's not, it sounds bad, but it's not. But why do you think loan officers move to different companies? Like what do you think is one of the main reasons?
I think one of the main reasons for most loan officers is based on compensation.
Yeah.
For me, has been a little bit different, and that's why there has been some movement based on what my clients need at that point. So when I was at Community Access Lending, I needed to burst myself on ITIN loans, broker, and like really understand how all of those loans work because I wasn't familiar with them. And then that was the place to do it. That was a place to get knowing, because everybody always talk about the broker world, like everything that it had to offer. So I was very curious, and there are amazing people over there. So I'm like, okay, this is the time to go ahead and do it. So for me, it has been whatever I'm going to learn more. A Movement Mortgage, I learned how important the marketing and the CRMs are, and having a very strong brand that when you call someone, they're like, wait, what company are you with?
Yeah.
So that also has some weight into it. And then also whatever we wanted to grow. I think when I went to Castle and Cook Mortgage, I wanted to be a team leader, kind of like what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And we had 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a team of about 6 or 7 people at some point.
Yeah.
And I was as the team lead. And I wanted to try it, and that was a lot of work. So I'm like,
I remember you
no
told
more.
me like I don't want to do that again. I don't ever want to. It's just not for me. It was great. You learned a lot. But I think now, because you were at Community Access Lending and they are a mortgage broker, and you and I both technically our last job, we were mortgage brokers.
Yep.
And those of you that don't know, a mortgage broker, essentially you have direct access to wholesale banks and all of their products, right? And when you're at a retail bank, you only have access to what that bank has access to, and you can still broker, but it's a little bit different. So it's not the same as when you broker, like when you're an actual mortgage broker. So I wanted to preface that. And so with that being said, and I'll talk about why I moved too, but why did you leave the broker world and jump back to retail?
It was because of the technology.
Yeah.
It was taking me a lot of time to be able to get through one loan and a lot of work where my focus should be basically generating new contracts, connecting with my realtors often, which I've been able to do since I started a few weeks ago with you guys. So that's what it was. That when you're in the broker world, it's pretty amazing because you can shop all of the rates and figure out which one fits your client. But every single bank has a completely different system.
Yeah.
Some work really well
and
some just don't.
From like the dinosaur age.
If you want to go to a new product, it's a whole learning experience.
Yeah.
So that was taking a lot of time, and like I homeschool my girls and I do all these things with my family, and it was just taking time away from that, where I have to be up really late at night trying to figure out how to import a 1003 application. So I switched to LoanDepot because it's easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy. Even my clients that are not computer savvy, they are like, oh, I just connected my bank account. And I'm like, great.
That was simple. I did it. Yeah. I think that's one of the main reasons. So the technology aspect of it is huge, right? Because we've been at numerous companies and nobody has the technology. And I want to stop there because a lot of companies will say we have amazing technology, but they all have the same things. Yeah. But I think LoanDepot and their technology and what they have and what they offer is truly different.
It really is,
night
because
and day.
As you're putting in the contact information, just basic, name, social, date of birth, and address, then you have your credit report, your verification of current and past employment, which connects to the income, and then you can do your 1 day certainty.
Day one, yep.
And then sometimes you can get an appraisal waiver depending on the down payment, and it just, you run it, and then it tells you, okay, all you need is a contract, and you're like, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And all of the companies can do that essentially. However, you have to go into different portals to do so.
Exactly.
And that takes time because everyone will require, you log in and they're like, well, you haven't updated your password. You're 20 minutes in now.
Son of a gun. Those of you that work in Encompass, you will know that frustration because it's exactly what
and
it
then
is.
how it's so easy to take a 1003 because normally I'm old fashioned, so I would just write it down on a piece of paper and then go in and put it in Encompass. And then that was a whole other process. But now you're filling out the little contact form just in the system and doing everything from there. So from any browser. So
and and it makes it super easy that you're like, the 1003 is one page essentially. And you're asking the client the questions that are on that page. So it's like, oh, this is very simple. I don't have to go to another page and do something else here.
Yeah.
So 100% the technology. Now, what would you say to loan officers that are kind of on the fence, like, should I go retail? Should I do broker? Like, who is an ideal fit, you think, for the broker side, and who is an ideal fit for retail, in your opinion?
I'm thinking if you have already a contract, like an MSA, I think it's called, with a real estate office, or if you have like a really good relationship with a builder, then where you're going to get a constant stream of leads, then it would be really easy to go to the broker side. And I think you need to have a very strong processor or loan officer assistant so we can help you through navigate on sending disclosures, because normally you have to do all of that
Yourself, yeah.
If you are trying to do a little bit more of the marketing, normally on the broker side, you won't get a CRM.
No.
You won't get any flyers done. You won't get any of that marketing.
Like support.
Any type of support. And I'm sure some companies, they do have like a marketing person that can help with those things, but it's not automated like with bigger companies, because that was the difference between Movement Mortgage and LoanDepot. They have those things already in place, like a full-on marketing department.
Huge,
with that, also the marketing departments come with a ton of rules and regulations as well. So that's something to be aware of.
Yeah.
But if you have the constant esteem of leader, you've been doing this for 20 years and you know your craft, then the broker side is the best.
Yeah.
I think if you are a newer loan officer and you're very much into marketing like you and I are, where we depend on our CRM. If our CRM doesn't tell us to do a task, it won't get done.
Yes, 100%.
That's me.
Yeah.
So that's when you can benefit from LoanDepot.
Yeah.
Just being on that aspect. And if you want to go and get more clients, more agents, then all your loans are being taken care of while you're doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's what it is. And you have to learn the systems at LoanDepot because that's what I've been doing. So it's dreamy, but as long as you put the work.
Yeah, I think LoanDepot has like the quickest ramp up of getting to know their systems and making sure that everything flows. For me, it was the quickest to get the hang of it just because they make it so easy and they have so many trainings on it, like weekly. But I wanted to add, I think I sort of agree with you on like the brokered and the retail model. And I also think if you want like the support and if you want benefits is huge for a lot of people. And if you want the support of like a huge company, I think the retail side is really, really good for you because it's easier for you to grow because it's easier for you to get support. When you're on the broker side, what I struggled with is like, okay, you can get support, but you have to hire them. You have to bring them on board. You have to train them. We're not going to do any of that stuff for you because we're just, the broker and that's it. So if you want your support, well, you can hire them, but you have to pay for them and you have to train them and do all that stuff. Yeah. So pros and cons to both, 100%.
I think it really depends where your business is at and where you're or how you're looking to grow. And on my case, I wanna go get more of my repeat clients because the same clients that I first closed on Axia 10 years ago are the same clients that I have today.
I love it.
So that's really important because we always had a CRM, right?
Yes.
So that model works best for me. And I'm glad that I tried the broker side because I did learn what's out there and also creating more relationship. We have a very small town where I'm like, okay, I have this loan that needs a special attention and issue is better housed with a broker.
Yep.
We can reach out to any of our friends knowing that they will take care of that client.
That's also very, very true. And I love that. And that's why they say relationships are so important in our business. Now, let's talk about, we're going to go way back. When you first came, so what did you do because how long have you been in the United States?
For almost 19 years, more than half of my life this year.
Oh my goodness. And so what was that? Talk to us about how that journey was. What you were in Peru, right? And when did you say I'm moving to the United States? Like talk to us about that.
Yeah. So I had finished high school at 17. That's normally you finish there at 16 or 17. And I came on vacation. My mom is like, oh, go visit your aunts before you start college because I was going to go to university to study architecture. That was the plan.
Wow, okay.
And so I'm like, okay, yeah, because I was going to prepare because over there you have, I guess over here too, you have to take like a test and you have to like do intensive preparatory before that. So she's like, go take a break. Well, little did we know I was going to meet Jaime when I was here.
Oh my gosh.
And so I met him, and then my mom is like, okay, because I came first to LA, to like Orange County. And then my mom is like, you know what, go to Florida, start making your way back to South America. And then I'm like, okay. And
but you have family in all these places?
Yes.
Okay,
some sort of distant relative. My mom has 9 brothers and sisters, and my dad has like 12. So there's family everywhere.
Yes. Okay.
So that's in LA. When I got here, I was housekeeping these amazing houses in San Diego. They just needed like 2 or like 3 housekeepers to keep the houses clean. So I was doing that for a little while.
Jeez.
And then for maybe a month and a half. And then I went to Florida. And then I was just waiting for the date on my ticket back to Peru. And so I got a job at a Peruvian restaurant that was owned by somebody from Mexico, which was interesting. I'm like, that's not how you make that.
This is not how it's done.
I'm like, you're putting the wrong pepper on that. And they pay me $2 an hour.
What?
And they're like, you're going to make your money on tips. And I'm like, okay, well, $2 an hour is, 6.5 soles, 7 soles an hour. And I'm like, that's more than I've ever made in my whole life.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So I'm like, done. And but I was a terrible waitress. I would
What were you
spill the food on everybody. Like in Peru, there is this gigantic called chupe de camarones, and it's a soup that is filled all the way to the top with like a lobster coming out and everything. And it was so hot, dropping it everywhere.
Oh
so
my
I would
God.
get horrible tips.
So nobody would tip me.
Yeah,
Shoot.
yeah, it was really bad. And so from there, Jaime sent me a cell phone because I didn't have a cell phone, and he started calling me on the cell phone.
Wait, where did you meet Jaime then?
In Orange County.
Okay, wait, we got to backtrack because you didn't even tell us. How did that happen?
His story.
No, I want to hear
young.
how did that story happen?
Well, I was bringing groceries in for my aunt.
Okay.
And he was visiting his family members in the same area.
Yeah.
And he saw me carrying, we always carry like 7 bags at a time.
Of course,
to
yes.
not make double trip.
Yes.
So he saw me doing that. So he ran to me and he carried all my bags. And then I'm like, oh, wow, nobody has ever done that for me. Only my dad carries my bags. And that's how I met him. And then he was living, I think, in like Studio City or West Hollywood or something like that. So he was coming every weekend all of a sudden to visit his son because I was there. So he would bring me like chocolates or like.
Just trying to court you, trying to win you over. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm like, well, my mom said I have to go back to Peru. So he met me at the airport to say goodbye, but he gave me a cell phone, like a prepaid cell phone.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to call you. And I'm like, okay, because I didn't have a number. And
I like this guy.
yeah, I know. He was persistent. And then when I was already in Fort Lauderdale, around that area, he said, I'll come visit you. And when he came to visit, he knows how strict my family is. So he brought his sister and his nephew and his niece. So it was a family affair.
I like
and
that.
then
Smart.
He got me a job in Vegas. He's like, you don't have to waitress if you want to stay a little bit longer. And then he's like, and by the way, I'm moving to Las Vegas too. So
what?
He knew.
This guy has game. I like this guy. I like him. Okay, so
we've been together 19 years, the whole time I've been in the US. And we've been married 17.
Okay, so what was your job in Vegas when you first moved?
Vegas, that was the worst because I was from bad job to bad job. So it was a job at a construction company, just assisting. And I knew English because I studied in high school in Peru. However, I still have an accent, but my accent was even thicker then, and I didn't understand certain mannerism in the U.S. For example, I called to get a fax number because some architectural plans needed to get faxed, and they are like, the number is 335700, and then I'm like, what? And they're like, oh.
What is oh?
And then I'm like, why are there O's in numbers? And then they're like 5300. And I'm like, oh. And then it just in my head, it's an O and a 0. And I'm like, oh, they look the same. And so I was super uncomfortable in that job because Jaime was very strategic. He got me the job because he knew my parents wanted me to be an architecture, so it was with an engineer, developer, builder. So it was en route to what I wanted to do. So my parents are like, oh yeah, that should be okay. But then I lasted very short of that company. I did not have the confidence to speak English. It was very difficult. So then I went back to housekeeping, all of the houses in like Seven Hills, Anthem Country Club, and all the stuff.
Nice ones,
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the housekeepers. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is, 100%.
So then from there, I got a gig as a babysitter.
Okay.
And I was just babysitting like from 7 to 6. And at nights when people wanted to go on date night, I put ads on Craigslist. I created business cards and I dropped it off at different restaurants. And people would just call me. So it got to the point where I was working 7 days a week, making anywhere from $15 to $20 an hour because I increased my rate for overnight.
Jeez,
and
that's
then
awesome.
I didn't drive because I didn't need to.
Yeah, and
I didn't have a license, and so Jaime will drive me. I'm like, this is what you got into. So he will drop me off and pick me up, and then that's what I did for a while until we moved like a year and a half later to California, to Sherman Oaks, and there I got a job doing data mining.
Okay.
So where you go online and somebody's looking for professors in UCLA, their email addresses and their phone numbers so they can resell that contact information.
Yeah.
So I did that. And apparently I was really good at looking on the information online. So my position continued to grow at that company. Eventually, Jaime and I woke up a morning. We're like, we should go get married.
Just like that. Like, hey, we're getting married. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go get married. And we made a little appointment at this little courthouse in West LA. And then we got married and we went to eat a bento box sushi thing. And then we went back to work. So
that's awesome. What the heck?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're in California. Why did you guys decide to move back to Vegas then?
Because we were in California for a couple of years and we ended up getting to a point where we were renting a house for $2,300 a month, and Jaime's family is in real estate, so they're like, oh, you know what, you're paying a lot, why don't you move over here? And he was starting his own business in web development.
Yeah.
And I was going to continue from here helping him out on that. And so we just came here. We're like, let's buy a house. We got the money. Well, we were 1099.
Oh, jeez.
We did not have the work history. We did not have the money. So then we had to go get W-2 jobs. And so we did for 2 years before we could buy our first house.
So the sacrifice.
That sacrifice,
Man,
yeah.
That's crazy because that's what we kind of tell our clients. Like, hey, you don't qualify because of your income, but you do qualify if you get a W-2 job.
Yeah.
And then you qualify immediately as soon as you get it.
Yeah, and you got to make sure you're working full time and you are saving your money and paying down credit cards. So
this is where your strategicness comes into play.
Yes.
Like, so I even reach out to you sometimes and I say, hey, how do I do this? Or how do we do this? And you're like, well, here's a guideline that says this. And I'm like, I'm not the guideline person, and I can admit it. I know my strengths. And so I know how to reach out to people that do know their guidelines, and I think that's being resourceful. But you're like both, because you're like really, really good at marketing. I feel like movement really like accelerated your like growth into marketing and kind of like changed our mindset of marketing. And so since then, what's like your strategy and how has your business grown since using social media? And what would you tell other loan officers and realtors that are kind of like, no, I don't need social media?
Yeah, well, I think it helped me so much to learn how to generate my own leads, whether it's, I started buying Zillow leads, and I also collaborated with some agents on paying for half of their marketing. And then that turns out to be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And then when we started doing the videos, the podcasts, the CRM outreach events and things like that, then clients started to get to know me, and so did the agents, where people are reaching out to me first. And then I have an approved client that I can give to my agents. And that feels really nice because I've learned over the years that you don't want to be working for someone because we're generating our own business. But we want to be have a successful partnership.
Yeah.
So I want the realtor that is giving me a client, I'm going to prep one to give them back to them. And that's being my model. So whoever is sending me a client, I'm going to send an approved client back, and we're going to end up closing 2 deals.
A true partnership.
Yeah, a true partnership.
I love it.
So it's pretty crazy. I'm still trying to figure out why some videos do better than others, but I can't.
That freaking algorithm.
Yeah, I cannot pinpoint it yet. But any content that I've created since I started doing video marketing, it's out there online.
Yeah.
So one of my first videos was about 203K FHA loans, so you can remodel the property that you buy. And I still get calls on that. He's like, hey, I hear that you bought a house with 203K, because that was my story, right? Because our first house, it was a remodel loan. And I told that story in a video. He's like, I want to do what you did. And I'm like, okay, perfect. Great.
Yes. I can walk you through the entire process and how it works. That's awesome. Yeah. So if a realtor is watching this and wants to watching
Send
us.
me a lead.
What do you do that's different than like your traditional loan officer? And I say this like without disrespect for other loan officers that aren't doing what we're doing, but
yeah, I think everybody has their own style and their own way of handling their clients, and I don't think that one is better than other. But with me, we're going to make sure that we not only get a deal closed, but also put the client set them up for success. So if it's a client where they're going to be house poor after they buy a house, I likely won't be able to do that loan just because it doesn't feel right. So we're going to look at a more of a financial strategy so they can grow, because I've been there where you're only making $2 an hour, and what it feels like when you invest in real estate and you make your money out of that and you're working really hard and you don't want to get to your house and then not be able to pay the mortgage. We're going to set up those clients where whenever they have a family that are going to buy or sell, or they want to refinance, or they have any questions about a financial strategy, they're going to reach out to us first.
Yeah.
And that was, I've been working this morning since 7 a.m. I don't like mornings, but, and all of them has been past clients asking me for questions. I'm like, hey, something happened with my insurance, or hey, something happened with this. And they're like, oh, by the way, I want to buy a $700,000 house. And I'm like, okay, that came out of nowhere.
You're like, yes, I will help. 100%.
Yeah.
But I think that's also very important because you're staying top of mind, right? You're sending out emails, you're sending out text messages, you're on social media, being active on social media. And I think that's why social media is so important. And yes, it is not the end all to be all, but it's like another successful tool that you can use to elevate and increase your business. And you're having these conversations daily with your clients. Why not just put it out on social media for your future clients, right? Because people have questions, but they're just too scared or too nervous to ask. And you've now created this awesome piece of content where they might feel comfortable to reach out to you like they have and say, hey, I have a question about this video that you posted. And that's the beautiful thing about social media and what a lot of people don't understand and how powerful it is. So what's the plan the rest of this year for you?
I think the rest of this year is I definitely want to generate more volume and get more consistent on recording videos, because that has clearly panned out. I don't have Rayleigh anymore. Rayleigh, I miss you.
Rayleigh, where are you at? Come back to us.
I know, right? I'm working on that. That's going to be my biggest sales success if I get her back to this industry.
She's back. She's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, but just to be more consistent on videos, because it's hard for me to go and set up a time to record the videos and like really think about that. So I usually repurpose content. So if I see something that I like, I'm like, how do I make this my own video? Because it's going to sound differently. So it's just being more consistent with that. Continue to grow LoanDepot. There is so many cool programs that we can generate and get ready for when the rates drop. Make sure that I stay on top of mind of all the clients that are going to need to refinance.
Yes, 100%. Okay, awesome. And so how can other realtors, other loan officers that might have questions, where can they reach you at?
They can reach me.
You can say it right here to this camera.
Oh, what am I doing?
Just where can they reach you if they can call you, text you, email you, whatever. Yeah. However people can reach you.
Okay. I'm always on my phone. So it's 702-745-4100. You can text me. You can call me. Just don't FaceTime me.
That's kind of weird.
That is a little weird. And those I accidentally FaceTime. I'm sorry. But yeah, just reach out. Even if you're another loan officer or if you're a realtor and already working with another loan officer and just need a second opinion, I'm always here to answer questions and just be able to collaborate with one another. Yeah,
she is probably, her and Carrie Cox, who they used to be partners. They are probably the most knowledgeable loan officers that I personally know. And she knows everything. And if she doesn't know everything, she'll usually reach out to Carrie and they'll go back and forth. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or need any help, Carolina is an amazing resource, and we're more than happy to assist. Content, social media, anything of that sort. Carolina, thank you so much for being on the episode. How did it go? Was it okay? Were you nervous at first and then relaxed a little bit?
I was way nervous. I'm always extremely nervous, if you haven't noticed, but it was fine.
It's easy, right? It's just a conversation.
It is really easy.
That's what I tell people. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm excited.
Yay.
Oh, man, that was nice. That was good.